Good afternoon and welcome to the Marshalltown City Council chambers for the October 23rd, 2017 meeting of the council, 10 West State Street. It's 5:30 p.m. As always, a notice to the public that the mayor and council welcome comments from the public during discussion. You're required to step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, limit the time used to present your remarks so that others have an opportunity to speak as well. With that, the council would invite you to stand and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Greer.
Here.
Hoop.
Here.
Kester.
Here.
Lamer.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Weiren's absent. Gowdy.
Here.
Very good. Thank you. I think, first of all, Chief Tupper, you have someone you want to introduce for us? Chris Jones does. All right.
Thank you.
That'll go quick.
Chris Jones, Operational Captain for the Police Department and Reserve Police Coordinator, Reserve Coordinator. Tonight I'm here to introduce and recognize one of our newest additions to our Police Reserve Unit, Police Peace Officer Reserve, Rachel Zamora. To provide some basic brief background about the Marshalltown Police Reserve Unit, the unit actually started in 1970 from a police auxiliary program which consisted of a small group of police volunteers who helped our department with a variety of tasks on a regular basis. In 1980, the state of Iowa began to allow departments to change that police auxiliary volunteer unit to a more formalized unit called police reserves. In the early stages of that transfer, the state of Iowa began to implement a mandatory 30-hour training requirement for agencies that declared reserve officers as police personnel. And at that time, police departments throughout the state of Iowa were responsible for establishing their own hiring standards as they began to fill their respective police programs. In 2004, the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy began to require that in order for departments to hire reserve police officers, they required them to hire them under the same standards as a certified peace officer. Following that change, the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy began a statewide standardized training program that mirrored the curriculum that a regular police certified officer would go through at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. This training would consist of 80 hours of voluntary training on 32 separate law enforcement related topics, and then 46 hours of additional firearms training. And on top of that rigorous commitment, the Marshalltown Police Department had adhered reserve officers an additional and required them to perform an additional 12 hours of service of volunteer time for in-service training and 8 hours per month of patrol duty training, and do all this for at least $1 per year. With that said, we're about to meet one of the most dedicated law enforcement officers that I've ever had an opportunity to work with. Not only was Rachel able to progressively, successfully, and progressively pass the state of Iowa's intense reserve training program, but she was able to do this while managing a full-time job and her family. Rachel's willingness to step into a reserve role has already proven to be an asset to our agency, and I'm excited to have Rachel be involved in her continued service to the Marshalltown community. And at this time, I'm proud to introduce to you the newest member of our police force, Reserve Officer Rachel Zamora. Come on. Rachel, on behalf of the state of Iowa and the Marshalltown Police Department, we provide you with your certification as a police reserve, and we look forward to working with you on a regular basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh.
Hey, Mayor, can we get you to come down in a photo with us, please?
Certainly.
Thank you. Yep.
So, Chief, thank you very much. That's, I'm sure, going to be a great addition to the reserve force and to the entire police department. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any comments from the city administrator?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, council members? Councilor Martin?
Your Honor, I'd just like to make mention of the groundbreaking tomorrow for the police and fire building at the site at 3 o'clock. All are welcome. It's certainly a public event, so we're real happy to begin the effort.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments? We will move to the approval of the agenda. Please note, Councilor Hoop has asked that items 13 and 14 be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda so that they may be discussed.
Move to approve with the appropriate adjustments of those two items.
Very good.
Second, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilor Lehmer and seconded by Councilor Martin to approve the agenda with the removal of the consent agenda, items 13 and 14, and those moved to the regular agenda. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Hoop,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Greer.
Yes.
Very good. And now we would accept a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilor Greer and seconded by Councilor Gowdy. Please call the roll.
Kester,
Yes.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Very good, motion carried. And now, if you would read the consent agenda as amended, please.
Approve council meeting minutes of October 9. Approve the bill list in the amount of $1,427,256.03. Approve July financials. Receipt of civil service certified new hire list for stormwater coordinator and firefighter. Resolution approving purchasing card policy and procedures for the city. Resolution approving capital assets and depreciation policy. Resolution changing the name of Assistance League Park to Turtle Park by request of Assistant League members. Resolution approving contract change order number 1 for the 12th Street to Wilson Circle Trail connection, a decrease of $22,316.80. Resolution approving engineer statement of completion and accepting the 12th Street to Wilson Circle Trail connection, final project cost of $327,456. Resolution approving contract change order number 2 for the 2017 full depth street repair project, decrease of $68,458.20. Resolution approving engineer statement of completion and accepting the 2017 full depth street project cost of $1,501,864.58. Resolution declaring certain property surplus property and authorizing sale and disposal of a digital hybrid Panasonic phone system acquired in fiscal year 2000.
Your Honor,
Councilor Lamer?
may I ask one question about a particular item, please?
Yes, go right ahead.
On item number 11, the final pay estimate's $1,500,000. According to the financial statement, we only have $1 million in that account. Are we going to take the rest of it out of road use tax then, the overrun?
I don't know that we've come up with that, but we can certainly get that answer to you at a future point. I know that was going to be a conversation with finance, as well as there's some local option sales tax fund balance for capital improvements. So
Okay.
trying to figure out what's the best balance of funding sources, but I don't think that determination's been made yet.
Okay, you'll let us know what you...
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, the clerk would read item 13, please.
Resolution declaring certain property surplus property and authorizing sale and disposal, a 2004 New Holland MC28 mower, and a 2003 Ford extended cab pickup with 93,000 miles.
Ann Salmas, Parks and Rec Director.
Go right ahead.
Well, I guess the question is why we're disposing of this equipment?
Okay,
Why it was
let's-
pulled off the consent, I guess.
Councilor Hoop, you want to discuss
I
this?
just would question, a truck with 92,000 miles could be surplus property that's basically break-in mileage. They're designed for 200,000 miles, and we're sitting here with 90,000 and going to sell it off.
I have a picture of the truck right there. We bought it used in 2008. Currently, we have some rust damage. We also need new tires. It needs tires, brakes, and seat covers, and some other minor fixes. Our maintenance fund per year for all vehicles is $2,500. Park trucks are on a 15-year rotation cycle, which this one is at, and as I said, we bought it used already in 2008. Parks actually now has a pretty good fleet of vehicles. From what I've heard in the past, that our vehicles were in pretty bad shape, so our strategy has been to trade them out so that we do get some trade-in value. Let's see. Yes.
Any other questions for Ann or comments?
I guess maybe we need to look at our maintenance fund then, because with 90,000 miles, it seems strange to declare it surplus.
I think the 90,000 miles isn't the thing to focus on, it's the life of the vehicle. And it actually, one of the items that you just approved was the fixed asset policy, which kind of guides sort of the useful life of fixed assets. As Ann said, it's not just you say, okay, we've had a vehicle for 15 years, therefore we let it go. It's you look at other conditions. One of the things to think about, and just the financial sense of things, any capital projects or capital equipment like vehicles and other things are funded through our capital improvement tax levy and are not actually taken out of the general fund. So when you have to start paying for additional repairs and things from the general fund, which is a fund that, as you all know, it's been tight. We're still in a tight. We've not been able to add on to budgets as we've gone, that everything has remained stagnant or been cut. This is a perfect example of we've had to cut back that repair budget to the point where we have the funds to replace things, but we don't have the funds to keep things in working order necessarily. And so there's probably a lot of things with multiple vehicles in our fleet that if we had the operating budget to put more money into them as we have them and as they age, they would be able to last longer. But that's where I want to make it very clear that replacing this vehicle was something that was approved in the capital improvement plan and has nothing to do with any general fund dollars. It's coming purely off of those capital improvement tax levy dollars that are meant for items like this.
I guess I'd have to agree with Al. It's there's still some life left in this truck.
Other comments? So is there a motion of some kind someone wants to offer? Counselor?
I've got a question for Jessica. We exchanged some emails earlier today. Could you explain to me the New Holland mower and the one of confusion that is for sale online versus this one here, and what that situation is?
Yeah, so this mower here was actually one that the council on September 11th approved a resolution to dispose of it at that point, using it for trade-in value on the purchase of a new mower. As internally, as we were going through the fixed asset policy, there is a section in there related to disposal of equipment requiring council authority. We'll look back at that one. It was not explicit authority to actually dispose of it, and so that's why the New Holland mower is on here. We've actually disposed of it. It's no longer our property. It was part of the trade-in, but to clear it from our fixed asset listing, this was to be the formal action that then goes to finance to clear it from our fixed assets.
So it really doesn't matter whether we approve it or not, it's gone.
Yes, it's gone. That action was approved by the council on
You have
September
approved
11th.
it. The council approved.
In September.
What this does is approve the removal of it from the fixed asset list.
And I have that paperwork, too.
So that's just, we're just doing paperwork on that one?
Yeah, that's what the mower is just clarifying that one, and
In the future, we can include that all in one, I think, which may avoid doing the two-step process, just make it in one.
yeah, the idea is when you have an asset that you know that you're no longer going to be using it, and you know you're going to dispose of it, whether trade-in or otherwise, that you've taken that action with the council, either well before you've solicited bids or doing it at the same time that you're awarding bids, so that those actions happen simultaneously, which is why the pickup truck is on here, and then the next Resolution 14 was to approve purchasing a new pickup truck, so that you had those actions taking place simultaneously.
Dan, we also did trade in a New Holland mower last fall as well. Okay.
And I think that's where the confusion
I
was
think
as far
so,
as
too.
what was
I have that
online.
paperwork here as well, so.
Thank you.
Any other comments on that? So we have a resolution declaring certain properties surplus property and authorizing sale and disposal of a New Holland mower and 2003 Ford extended cab pickup.
You might want to split them, Your Honor.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I would move that we declare the 2004 New Holland mower MC28 mower as surplus property so they can be disposed of.
If I may ask the city attorney, can we split those two?
Well, the resolution as written contains them both, but by action of the council, you can revise the wording of the resolution to include one item, and then you can deal with the other in a separate resolution. You just have a different number.
Okay. Or we may amend this one and remove one item. Is that the other option?
Move to amend the resolution by removing an item, yes.
Which would you prefer to do with your resolution, Counselor, your motion?
Let's just remove the 2003 Ford extended cab pickup from this resolution, and we'll handle it as a separate item.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Kester. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Okay. And then is your motion then to go ahead and approve the resolution as amended? Counselor?
Yes. So now the resolution would just read the mower?
What we did was we
Oh, removed it.
removed any
Gotcha.
reference to the extended cab pickup from the resolution.
Okay, yes, Your Honor, it would be.
All right. So we have a resolution to declare surplus property authorizing sale and disposal of New Holland mower. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Gowdy. Comments? Questions?
The first vote was on the amendment, and now the second vote is to approve the resolution.
Resolution, that's correct,
Okay.
as amended. Okay. Please call the roll.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kester,
Yes.
Motion carried. Please read item 14.
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the purchase of one Ford F-150 Super Cab for use in parks from Jensen Ford for $23,360.
You've heard the Park and Rec Director's explanation. Is there a question or comments? Are there comments?
Wasn't this approved in the CIP? So we're not, basically, we've already approved this purchase?
Yes, this was one of multiple items that would have been presented for Fund 030, which is our capital improvement fund, which is those tax levy dollars that I mentioned, and so that would have been approved as part of the budget process last March.
Your Honor?
Councilor Lamer?
Go ahead.
Further comment, maybe question. I know we're replacing, it looks like we want to replace an extended cab pickup with a super cab pickup, not much difference, 8-foot box and so on. Any real differences between the used one, the present one, and the proposed new one?
Well, the new one has, like you said, the extended cab. The other one, I think I showed you a picture of. Let's see here. We can carry more supplies, more people for this vehicle. We wanted an 8-foot box this time. It's two-wheel drive.
Okay. Your Honor, I think we've already approved it in the CIP, too. If you want to check, you can do so.
But was the Jensen Ford bid of $23,316 based on a trade-in?
Yes.
Your Honor?
Yes, Councilor.
We're
getting $900.
We just as well either voted up or down, so I would move that we declare the 2003 Ford extended cab pickup as what do we call it? Surplus property, so it can be disposed of.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilor Lamer, seconded by Councilor Greer. Any further discussion? Comments from public? Okay, please call the roll.
Martin?
Yes.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Greer?
Yes.
Hoop?
No.
Hester?
No.
Okay, motion carried.
Lamer, no.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Councilor.
sorry. Blamer, no.
Now we can go ahead with 14.
Could you give the count on that, please, for me?
3.
3-3.
3-3.
So the motion dies on a tie vote. Please read, so we're still on item 14.
I would, Your Honor, wouldn't that make item 14 dead
Well, that would
if we're not getting rid of the vehicle?
make you $900 short of being able to purchase a truck.
Okay.
But the one thing to point out, though, is this did come in under budget, so you could still accept Jensen Ford's bid with the $900 trade-in removed, and it's still under the $25,000 budget in the CIP. If their bid $23,316, if you add $900 to that, gets you to $24,216. You're still under the total budget of $25,000, which was approved in the CIP.
Right, but then we're going
That's
to
not
have
the
an
res-
extra vehicle that we don't need.
We would have an extra vehicle.
Okay.
And that's not what the resolution is for.
The resolution is to authorize accepting the bid and purchasing a vehicle by not moving forward with declaring anything surplus doesn't mean that you cannot move forward with the purchase. They're two separate actions.
But the resolution gives a dollar amount.
And you can amend that.
Yeah,
That can be
it'd have to be
amended.
amended.
So is there a motion to approve a resolution, pardon me, to amend the resolution to approve the purchase of the pickup as stated? Then the motion dies for, or the item dies for lack of a motion. Please read item 15.
GS Convenience and Petroleum, Class C liquor license at 229 North 13th Street. The application is complete, and I recommend approval.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Kester. Any comments from the public? Council? Councilor Hoop?
I guess I'd ask the chief if there's any problems with this license.
Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. I don't have any concerns with the application.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Is this the new one? The new store? Okay.
He's had a Class B beer license for a year, now he's adding a Class C liquor license.
Okay. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Greer?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kester?
Yes.
Lamer?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion carried. Please read item 16.
I'd like the council to consider a motion to schedule the last meeting of the calendar year for noon on December 27th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Lamer and seconded by Councilor Gowdy to approve the resolution, pardon me, to approve scheduling of the last meeting for this year, December 27th. Please call the roll.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Greer?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kester?
Yes.
Lamer?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion carried. Please read item 17.
Tentative resolution accepting subordination agreement for property interests at 917 South Center Street.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. This is one of our subordination requests for our lead hazard control program, which you've seen several of before over the years. In this case, this is a rental unit. The property owner actually has 5 properties that he's refinancing into one combined loan. So a little bit different when you're looking at the numbers. We're actually talking about multiple properties, one of which is one that received lead work and still has an outstanding lien on. And so the total amount of the appraised value for all 5 is $105,000. The new loan amount would be $84,000. Our remaining lien balance is $6,830, so we're still below that appraised value. So should there go into some type of foreclosure or default, we feel there's still adequate coverage between the sale of the combined assets that the lien would be covered for the remaining 2 years. So we have 60%, 3 years have been forgiven, 2 years remain on the property. So this is a tentative resolution. We would have the public hearing at your next meeting on November 13th.
Questions for Michelle?
No, thank you.
Any comments? Comments from the public? Okay, please call the roll. Oh, pardon me, we'll need a motion.
So move, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counselor. Moved by Councilor Martin and seconded by Councilor Greer to approve the tentative resolution 2017-299. Please call the roll.
Greer?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kester?
Yes.
Lamer?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Motion carried. Please read item 18.
Resolution authorizing the city to enter into a 28E agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation accepting the rice grass wetland parcel in the southeast city limits.
Ann Selness, Parks and Rec Director. The recent Parks and Recreation Master Plan survey results showed Marshalltown residents are looking for a more natural park opportunity and experience. The city is fortunate to have the opportunity to accept the rice grass wetland parcel on the southeast side of the city. This new park will eventually have a grass walking trail and interpretive signage highlighting the park's natural resources. The park area is home to numerous bird, tree, and plant species. My hope is that the schools will use this area to study local ecology and perhaps do some small research projects in the future. The city would be responsible to control noxious weeds and any nuisance rodents as we do in other park areas. Staff recommend accepting this parcel from the Iowa Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Ann. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Moved by Councilor Grid. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Gowdy to approve
Your Honor.
Resolution 2017-300. Councilor Lamer.
Jessica and I had a long conversation about this piece of property earlier. It sounds like a good, if you've ever been out there, this is a place where a lot of people walk their dogs on an old piece of highway that used to be Highway 30. And we have used it, the city has used it to make sure their paint striping machine worked. The street is, the local farmer sold all the hill off to Menards when Menards built their new building, and that's why that hill is gone. There's several people that use this for duck and goose hunting, and being inside the city limits and as a city park, I know that wouldn't be acceptable. I don't think that's right. I think they've done that for a number of years, and I hope we can still do that. But if you go out there and take a look, the base of the pond is within a few inches of the outlet of the culvert that goes across the road, so sooner or later we're going to have to dredge the thing, and I'd hate to take over something that we had to spend a whole ton of money to dredge right off the bat. But I understand the circumstances that it came to us by, and I guess I still don't want us to have it. The Park and Rec Department already, according to their 10-year study that we set through the presentation, Bill and I did, they said we were understaffed, and basically the recommendation of the people in Marshalltown was to get on the stick and take care of what you got and get it up in good shape. And if they already see us not taking care of what we got, and if we're going to add to it, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's just my personal feeling.
And I was thinking this would be a project down the road, a 5 to 10 year later project. I know we can't do it right now. And the plan was to punch in just an easy grass walking trail so people could walk all around and not just on the old road bed there with the striping. Yeah.
Question.
Councilor Kessler.
I've seen some drawings of the Central River Gun Club having a facility somewhere close to that. Can you tell me where it is in relation?
I don't know anything about the Central River Gun Club. I can look into that, though. Do you know where that is, or?
Well, right now they're under the viaduct, and
That's the Iowa River Gun Club.
Iowa River Gun
Yep,
Club,
there's
I'm
another
sorry.
gun club that does have
Oh,
some other
oh, oh.
land that they leased from the city that we just renewed that lease here recently.
By the airport.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, that's for the clay pit. I'm talking about the group that has the one under the viaduct. I've seen drawings of, and I think that's the group that is going to be moving. It's my understanding right to the east of that.
I can say that's not been communicated to me or my office. I'm seeing Justin shake his head back there and say that's not anything that we've been made aware of.
All right.
Just to the east of that, I believe, is right outside of city limits. I think this is the last parcel that it is, so to the east would be you're in the county at that point.
Your Honor,
Councilor Martin.
I've been out to this area repeatedly over the years, exercising dog and wondering at the butterflies and so on. I welcome this. It's a natural area. It has beavers, yes. It has some other animals. It would be kept wild with a modicum of upkeep. Yes, the drainage tile would need addressing. I think the idea of having a rough trail, walking trail around there with wood chips or whatever might fit well and be very inexpensive. The also to be mentioned is the comprehensive 10-year plan, if you will, for Park and Rec. One of the ideas on there was to have natural areas, not manicured park necessarily and so on, and this would fit that bill. I think it would be low maintenance, at least I hope so. And like I think Ms. Selma said, it would be over a period of time that we could accomplish a modicum of work in that area.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other? Counselor Custer?
Is there a time limit on when we would have to accept this?
Not that I know of. I mean, we have all the paperwork ready to go, but, I mean, if there's some questions, I'd be happy to go find those out for you
Okay.
in the meantime, so.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the resolution. Any comments from the public? Hearing none. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Hoop,
No.
Kester,
No.
Lamer,
No.
Martin,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
3-3.
3-3, so the motion dies.
Your Honor,
Counselor Martin?
I would hope this would come up at the next meeting when you have a full complement of counselors for a vote.
Thank you, sir. We're down to council discussion.
We have another resolution.
I'm sorry.
No, 19.
Oh, I checked that one off already. Sorry. Please read item 19.
Resolution setting date for public hearing on an agreement with Marshalltown Central Business District, hearing date for November 13.
Yes, this is formalizing our agreement with the Marshalltown Central Business District and putting in there 1 year of funding at $26,000, which is a slight increase from where we're at right now at $24,000, and then also formalizing our funding for 1 year for the facade grant improvement program of $40,000, which is then administered by the MCBD. And so because we're using tax increment financing as the proposed source for the funding in fiscal year 19, we have to set a public hearing. The public hearing will occur on November 13th. And then why are we doing this right now versus waiting until the budget time? We have to certify any new TIF debt to the county auditor's office by December 1st of each year. And so those resolutions to kind of bless the certification come before you at that last meeting in November. So we couldn't hold the public hearing at the last meeting in November, so it kind of had to happen now.
Okay, questions for the city administrator? Councilor Lamer?
I think the facade grants have been used in a really good fashion, and I want to see them keep going. So, yeah, I would move to approve the resolution.
Second. We have a motion by Councilor Lamer, seconded by Councilor Greer to approve Resolution 2017-301. Any other comments or questions from the council? Comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Kester,
Yes.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Hoop.
No.
Motion carried.
Okay, what was the count?
5-1.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Your Honor,
Councilor Lamer?
since we're going to discussion, can I ask a question? The one that we did for subordination grant agreement,
You may.
do we need to set a date for a public hearing, or did we?
It's in the motion.
The motion doesn't say that here, though.
It's in the resolution.
Pardon me, the resolution.
Are you talking about setting our last meeting of the year, that action?
No. It says
Number 17 did not list the
It did.
hearing date
Oh.
on the agenda.
it accepted the property, but it doesn't say anything about,
It is in the content of the resolution. I think it's section 2 of the resolution states that the public hearing, or section 3 states that the public hearing will be held at 5:30 PM on the 13th day of November. So even though it wasn't in the title, it is in the content of the resolution.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we're ready for council discussion. These are items listed which the council will be discussing, and then out of this. Hopefully will come direction to city staff, city administrator on the items and future potential action on those. So if you'd read item 20.
Purchasing policy.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. Yes, 2 weeks ago, we brought a proposed policy to you, and you had some questions and wanted some input, more input on some items. So that's what this form is. So we'd like to go over those items. So the first topic was dealing with change orders. So right now, if you approve a contract, then you approve every change order. That's the existing policy. What we had proposed is that the city engineer would be able to approve up to $25,000 or up to a 10% increase of the original contract. As you discussed last time, we brought you forth some new options. It was suggested that we could possibly go with the proposed language if you received a report of those change orders at your meetings. That would be option one. Or option two, we lowered the threshold so the city engineer or the department director can approve up to $10,000 or up to a 5% increase of the original contract, or any other amounts you may prefer. So do you have any direction?
Comments? We're looking for feedback. Councilor Hoop?
Option one is a good option. I guess I'm not as concerned with the exact amount. The work has to be done. My concern is and was just having us notified of the change. So as they incrementally go up, we should know that that's coming instead of waiting until the end to have a large number.
Okay.
So I guess the 25,000 in some jobs wouldn't cover very much, but
Your Honor,
Councilor Martin?
my main concern in bringing this up last time and having some reservations is that we, the council, wouldn't have enough oversight and we would be abrogating some responsibility and so on. Since then, I've rethought that and tend to think this is reasonable and proper and up to date. I still want to maintain, and that was the original intent, that we not abrogate responsibility for large dollar items to without review. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lamer?
I'm with Mr. Hoop. I want to see the projects keep moving. I think as long as we're notified, I don't even think it needs to have a dollar amount on it. I think as long as the city engineer agrees to it and the city administrator would put her initials behind his name, I'm okay with that. But I think we need to be notified that they're of all the change orders, just so we know what's going on. I think it's more, I want to be notified. I want to know how the money's flowing rather than just have a big one at the end like.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Kester?
I guess I'd prefer to keep it as existing.
Other comments? I think one of the concerns that I've heard is that under the current policy, we're basically having the city engineer tied up doing, in some respects, very minor things that probably could be time spent on bigger issues within the department. I think that's something the council needs to consider. Is that what you want your department head doing?
Is there a reason why the department head has to do it? Could one of his other staff members do it?
Typically, though, what you would still see is that the city engineer, especially if it is a public improvement project, is still going to be the one to sign off on that. So even if you have somebody else preparing, you're still going to have, you don't want him to just sign his name without looking it over. I mean, you'd still have him reviewing it.
So, Councilor Gowdy?
I thought, and I'm hoping that we don't have to stick with an option 1 or option 2. I think if you could get something written out to cover both of those, I think we get to both ends of what we've been discussing is notification, but leniency on what the department heads can okay, but we still need to have some accountability. And if we can get those 2 options written in, I think it kind of would appease everybody on the council to kind of get what we're getting, still some control, but yet some leeway up to a certain amount. That's just my idea of we need to show some leniency, or leniency is not the right word, but some ability for these department heads to make a decision other than keep going back and forth to the council for minor adjustments. The only word I don't like in there is increase. That being said, if we could put decrease in there, it would feel a lot better, but that's probably
not going to happen, right?
Probably wishful thinking, so I'll leave that to the higher powers.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor.
So when I was writing option 1, you're exactly right. The proposed would be the language, but at the end of that paragraph, it would say, after change orders have been approved, a report will be provided to the council indicating vendor name, amount, purpose of contract, and reason for change order.
And I think Mike talked about maybe reducing the 25,000 and the 10%, or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, that I was kind of referring to the option 2 of 10.
Oh, okay.
Or up to 5%, which obviously could be, who knows, but I don't know, I guess, in big projects, I guess it's just, the dollar amount is not as much as the notification part.
We'll ask the city administrator and city finance director then to draft something for presentation at the next meeting.
Your Honor,
Councilor Lehman.
could we have one more comment made?
We can have one more comment, you bet.
I would like to hear from our city engineer how this is going to affect the projects we have going.
Justin, would you mind stepping up?
I'd like to hear his side of the story.
Is there a specific question in there, or just my thought process was behind this was, yes, as the mayor kind of stated, to keep things moving. Our current policy, it's not in the slide up on the top, but I believe the wording gives the city engineer the authority to make change directives in the field to keep projects moving. We do have a representative from Story Construction here tonight, and he's concerned about that with our upcoming police and fire of, if there's a change of a significant value, hundreds of thousands of dollars or something, we're obviously going to come back to the council, but we can't wait 2 weeks to run back to the council to bring every little change order. And that was my thought process on the 25,000 of, I find it a little cumbersome to bring you a change order for $1,200. To Councilor Kester's, I'd be more than happy to bring you a report as we go. I'd also answer that you actually get a report at the end, which is an engineer's statement of completion, which outlines for you what the original bid was, what the changes have been. Thinking back to recent change orders over the summer, if it's $500,000, I'm not intending to approve that and keep you out in the dark. That obviously would come back to council, but my thought process was $1,200, $2,000, $5,000. I don't foresee that as unreasonable to allow the city engineer or the department director to make a decision. Our purchasing policy allows the director to purchase something up to $5,000. Why should it be that much different for a change order? I'd also argue that the city engineer is in the best position to make the decision to keep the project moving forward.
Councilor?
I think part of it is the communications, Justin, and I can see you going ahead and approving change orders and then just have a copy of them in the packet, so we know what's going on. That way, we just know what's going on.
Okay.
But I don't have a, I don't want us to tie your hands so projects are sitting there waiting for our approval. I want it so you can use, we hired you because you were a professional, and I'm not the professional, you are. And if you say, we need to do this and this is going to cost this much money, I want you to be able to go ahead and do that. I just want to know what happened.
With conscientious thought to what our budget is, and I can understand the questioning and the discussion. I agree. I don't feel as though I make a lot of choices that put us in a financial bind, and wanted a little leeway on the ability to make some decisions that are of a smaller dollar amount.
Your Honor, if I might,
Councilor
I trust the staff to know which things to let us know about and which things we don't really need to care about.
Well summarized. That's kind of what, to me, the $1,200 change order seems like it's approved. So that was my thought process behind the request.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks.
Got what you need to prepare the...
Well, I was going to say, we've got two other items here as well to discuss that we're still undecided in the purchasing policy.
I'm not sure I heard an exact consensus of what I'm supposed to do on that, so what, are we going with the lower dollar threshold, the 10,000, or what are we doing?
We'll get it drafted up and brought back.
But what am I drafting?
We're going to draft something that's kind of a combination between 1 and 2, yeah.
Okay. As long as you know, Jessica, I'll go with you. Okay.
Go ahead.
So the next one is items previously approved on our CIP plan. So right now, our current policy doesn't really doesn't articulate the difference between a CIP purchase and any other purchase. What we are proposing, though, is that departments can approve up to 10% increase of the original estimate. After discussion with you, we talked about if the purchase is less than a 10% increase and the purchase is less than $10,000, then only the department has to approve. If it's less than $45,000, then the city administrator would approve, and if it's $40,000 or above, the council would approve. So this goes back to our standard thresholds of dollars that we talked about last time. Option 2 would be as long as it comes in below budget or equal to budget, and the purchase is less than $10,000, then the department would proceed. If the purchase is between 10 and 45, and there's an increase above the budgeted cost, then the city administrator would approve. And again, if it's 45,000 or above, the council approves. And then option 3 is just if it's equal to or below the budget, the department can proceed with the regular threshold dollars. If purchase is above the budgeted estimate, then the council approves.
Okay. Comments? You ready to go with the proposed? Okay. You bring us back one on that item with using the proposed. And now, if you want to run through the motor vehicle with us.
Sure, so we took the motor vehicles out since there was a lot of discussion on that last time. So our existing policy says any vehicle is subject to council pre-approval, and then the purchase is also awarded by the council. So our original proposal was that we would treat CIP purchases just like any other purchases with a dollar threshold where the council would approve anything at $45,000 or above. Option one, I think you all said that we didn't have to come back for pre-approval, but option one is that the purchase awarded by the council, if the vehicle licensed to be driven on the road, you would have to approve it. The second option would be no pre-approval. Purchase awarded by council if a vehicle licensed to be driven on the road and purchase is greater than $10,000, and we can change that amount as well.
Comments? Councilor Kester.
I'm comfortable with the existing.
Can we take out pre-approval?
That's one of the things that we're reviewing these policies to basically try and take out redundant steps. And so each of these vehicles is going to be approved by the council in the capital improvement plan. And then the way the policy is currently written, it comes back for pre-approval before putting out to bid, and then would come back again for the council to award the bid, assuming the pre-approval had been approved. And so the idea was to make this. The idea really with talking about this one specifically is the capital improvement plan is a very important document that staff spends a great deal of time working on, really starting in October and then in November, and council spends basically 3 months going through as well. That is an extensive review and an extensive amount of time to look at those items and to make decisions about those items in relation to our budget. So is a pre-approval step necessary when there's already been that much time dedicated to talking about things funded in the capital improvement plan, specifically motor vehicles?
So I think option one is what you're wanting, as long as you're okay with taking out the pre-approval. So council would approve any vehicle licensed to be driven on the road. And the reason I changed that wording is so you wouldn't necessarily treat motor vehicles like you would a lawnmower, since they're not licensed for the road.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we'll go with option one if you'll bring that back. So we're on item 21, please.
Fiscal year ending 2019 budget schedule and general fund update.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. Okay, this budget schedule is very similar to prior years. So in October and November, staff are working on developing the CIP budgets and their operating budgets and going through that, and also in December. And then when January comes and we get evaluations, then sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board if we aren't able to generate as much revenue as we anticipated when we put the budget together. And then it's council's turn. So first thing, the week of November 27th sometime, we will be having a strategic planning session with department heads and the council. And this is usually this is later than normal, but we wanted to wait till after the election so the potential new people would be involved. And then you have, from there on out, you have council meetings, which we have designated certain things we're going to be discussing, and we also set some special council meetings at noon. So that's helpful to get through it because there's a 3-week gap at the end of January where we don't have a regular council meeting. So just in order to get everything done and have the public hearing and get it to the county. So this is our proposed schedule.
One of the things that Diana said but didn't echo enough is that really, when it comes to the general fund, we're not going to get our valuation figures probably until after the first of the year. And so that means that it's very difficult to kind of have a discussion early on at that first meeting about the general fund. But we have scheduled something tentatively for January 22nd. That way we can address any issues we need to address earlier in the process, well before we're setting a public hearing, and talk about the local option sales tax designation fairly early on to figure out where we need to go. So that is something that it's a little bit of a difficulty, but we're going to try and work through that as best as possible.
Anything else, Diana?
Yes, I would like to update you on the fiscal year 18 budget. I put this in your memo, but this needs to be fiscal year 18 instead of 17. Sorry about that. Okay. So first of all, I want to tell you how fiscal year 17 ended. I originally had announced several meetings ago that we ended in the black. Since then, we had to do some adjustments as we were doing our audit work, and departments were finalizing their final reports. So we just had to reclassify some revenues. Instead of, our budgeted deficit was originally $371,000. Our actual deficits only came in at $14,000. So that's still pretty amazing. So our ending cash balance is $1,010,519, and that's what this is right here. So that's what we're going to start the new fiscal year with. So in our general fund, 001 is used for our regular operating expenditures of the city for the police department, fire, library, parks and rec, public works, housing, and administration. So in fiscal year 18, when you adopted the budget last March, it had a deficit of $253,000. In August, the council approved that we could use local option sales tax money to make that whole. So we transferred $193,000 into 001. The difference was that the hospital signed our contract, so that gave us an additional $70,000. And then we had a few additional expenses for our software. So right now, our beginning fund balance should be our ending fund balance. That's what we're projecting. It's really early in the year, so I'm sure things will fluctuate, but that's what's on paper anyway. So since Fund 001 has been balanced, we're in good shape. The city is not broke. In fact, we increased our cash flow reserve, which is the next row I'm going to talk about. This was created to specifically bridge the gaps between the inflows and outflows. So as you know, we get a big influx of money in October and April for our property tax. Our goal of this fund is to reach 15%, which is $2.3 million. I'm sorry, the goal is to reach 15% of general fund expenses, which is $2.3 million. So we still need about $264,000 to reach that goal. But we're well on our way. The Capital Reserve Fund 030, this is the capital expenses for equipment and larger repairs and maintenance items of the general fund. This funding comes from our levy, 67.5 cents per $1,000 of valuation. 15% of this levy is to be set aside for large capital purchases. So 15% of our expected revenues from this levy is about $83,000. So we're sitting okay there. The capital reserve for the building fund 031, this fund reflects capital expenses for facility maintenance items out of the general fund. We could use the CIP levy for this as well, but we've been spending down money from a sale of a building from several years ago, so we haven't had to put any money into it. And then the last one, the Coliseum. This fund was originally created to monitor the activities and costs associated with the Coliseum. Primarily, the rental fees and concessions are posted to this fund. The participant fees are actually posted to the general fund, 001. Fees have been raised. So right now, they charge $40 for nonprofits and $50 for the others. We are anticipating another $8,000 to $10,000 from the Adult Soccer League indoor rent, which has not been budgeted yet. So we should be in pretty good shape there as well. So any questions on FY18?
Questions for Diana?
Nice job.
Thank you, Diana.
Nice job.
And I know there's been talk through the community, maybe it's coming from coffee shops, I don't know, that all sorts of outrageous, I guess, comments about the city is broke, it has no money. That's absolutely not true. City finances are in very good shape, and we thank the Finance Department for their efforts. And thank you, Diana, for that update. Item 22 is blighted properties. Councilor Martin, you asked that we place this on the agenda for discussion. And there has been a definition of blighted properties according to Iowa code that was distributed at council prior to the meeting. Go right ahead.
The reason I question blighted area, as it is in the Iowa code, is because some of us are looking at using that term along with some TIF money to assist an owner in demolishing a private property. I don't like that concept one bit, and I think other councilors may learn the same. I would like to, for the audience participation and understanding, to present this as a definition and see where you think it belongs. Blighted area means an area of a municipality within which the local governing body of the municipality determines that the presence of a substantial number of slum, deteriorated, or deteriorating structures, defective or inadequate street layout, faulty lot layout in relation to size, adequacy, accessibility, or usefulness, insanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of the site or other improvements, diversity of ownership, tax or special assessment delinquency exceeding the fair value of the land, defective or unusual conditions of title, or the existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire and other causes, or any combination of these factors, substantially impairs or arrests the sound growth of the municipality, retards the provision of housing accommodations, or constitutes an economic or social liability, and is a menace to the public health, safety, or welfare in its present condition and use. And it goes on to say, a blighted area does not include real property assessed as ag property or for the purposes of taxation. What a laundry list. It's in the Iowa Code, and some would like to apply it to a local situation. I've been opposed, and I've been consistent in my opposition using tax dollars for private purposes other than the general welfare. So that's my point. Start the discussion.
I was going to say, one thing I would like to point out is that this is, Chapter 403 does govern urban renewal law in the state of Iowa, and so we do have a few different urban renewal areas that have been adopted with the slum and blight designation to basically start that process. And so one of those areas is the downtown urban renewal area, which does have a blight designation. So as I was searching for a definition, this is the one that fit best because it's one that the council adopted first back in 1998 with the downtown urban renewal plan. So that's a little bit of history about where that's coming from and how we've used it and applied that in Marshalltown.
Okay. Comments, councilors?
In addition, my concern is setting a precedence. It's a slippery slope once you start that, and using taxpayer money for such private purposes for underwriting part of a demolition of a building that may not be blighted is a real concern.
Councilor Custer.
I agree with Councilor Martin. In this particular case, I don't think the structure in question is close to falling under the blighted structure definition.
Councilor Lamer? Thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Now that you asked me.
Go right ahead.
To the city administrator, if I understood you right, when we designated this as an urban renewal, we actually said the whole area was a blighted area?
Yes, and that's not uncommon, because the thing with urban renewal law is that a designation of slum and blight has an unlimited lifespan. There's not a sunset on it unless the entity puts a sunset on it. That was actually, there was a sunset on the downtown area until a few years ago. I want to say 2013 was when that was removed. And the reason you remove it is because, as you can see, there's time that it takes to really get to the point where you've completed urban revitalization and urban renewal as a whole. And so if you have an economic development designation or a housing designation, those are different rules under urban renewal law. But blighted does not have a sunset date, and that's typical to see with many areas across the state that have been adopted with that designation.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Your Honor, is something going to become in front of the council for action? If so, what might that be?
It is possible, yes. And as I've had a couple of council members ask me about the blighted property issue. You know, I would caution the council not to get too restrictive in your interpretation of this, because it's going to then limit your ability to utilize the actions that you can take under the urban renewal area, also under other sections of the law dealing with blighted properties. In any case, you're going to decide each one on a case-by-case basis. But to make it so restrictive that basically the designation is useless really can hamper the community's ability to clean things up, and also the ability of the community to take advantage of some economic development opportunities.
So, am I to understand that then we're in the business of picking favorites?
Not at all.
With tax monies?
Not at all. You're not picking favorites. You're making a determination if something is of benefit to the community, and if that action deserves or requires and deserves some incentive or some city participation in some way. It might not be doing something as a blighted area, but is it a project that deserves participation by the city? Is it something that's going to be of economic benefit to the community in the long run? And that's, as I say, the reason I would caution you to be cautious, caution you to be careful that you don't make it too restrictive. Don't tie the hands of the community's ability to attract future investment. No other comment? Then we'll move to public comments. This is time at which members of the public are welcome to come to the microphone, state your name and address, and address issues of interest to the city not previously discussed or mentioned as part of this agenda.
Sarah Rosenblum, Library Director. Since we've had so much talk today about budgets and things, I just want to let the public know that on Sunday, October 29th at 1:30, we are having a couponing workshop with the coupon queen, Mary Kenyon. So a great time to come in and get some tips and do some savings, and then you'll have extra money to spend on the holidays, and hopefully you'll spend it locally. We've had a great month with a lot of wonderful programs, and I hope that people will check out the library's calendar.
William Kent Kruger, you drew a crowd of about, what, 100 people to...
we had about 100 people, and I'm not sure how many books we sold, but I know it was a great number. And we had a really nice program with the All Iowa Reads author and an illustrator before that. So we're just rolling through with lots of wonderful programs, and great things are happening at the public library. Yeah. And we just finished our first year of 7 days a week service. So
very good. We should mention William Kent Kruger indicated he had been in Marshalltown once before for this type of thing at Hastings Bookstore, and the reason he remembered that, he drew 3 people.
It was very early in his career, though.
Early in his career. This time he drew 100 or so. With that, there's no other...
I have one other item I'd like to ask.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Counselor.
I'd like to know from Justin where we stand with all the storm sewer and street changes that need to be done with the fire and police station. I know we've got $400,000 to work with, but I have a feeling that those improvements are going to cost way more than that.
I can answer one of those. We do have a consultant, Bolton and Mink from Ames, working on stormwater improvements. Steve Simons and I met with the engineer a week ago today to present some of his findings, which, as I suspected, will tweak some of the ideas, but the possibility of dredging the detention pond north of High Street, the possibility of adding storm sewer intakes on the street from High Street to get more water into the pond, the possibility of upsizing the storm sewer pipe underneath High Street, and the possibility of raising High Street, which might be the most expensive one, and don't know whether that's a viable option yet or not. I'm hoping in the next month to send out a request for proposals for traffic engineers to help us with any number of traffic engineering issues we have with the city, but specifically top of the list would be to look at the intersections of 6th and High and the intersections at Anson and Center Street.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, I'd encourage you to go out and start spreading the word about all the positive things happening in Marshalltown, and have a good week. We're adjourned.